In the deep silence of space, far beyond Neptune's orbit, something entered our solar system. It wasn't expected. It wasn't predicted. It didn't belong here. Astronomers first thought it was a faint speck of debris, a harmless traveler from afar, but within hours, the calculations told a different story. Its trajectory wasn't natural. Its speed defied the sun's gravity, and its light pulsed irregular, like a signal trying to break through cosmic noise. They named it 3I/A TLAS, the third known interstellar visitor to our solar system. But this one was different. This one changed everything. When it was first detected by the ATLAS survey telescope in Hawaii, the system almost dismissed it as an error. But as frames stacked, a clear path emerged, an object coming from the direction of the constellation Lyra, moving faster than any comet ever recorded. It wasn't falling toward the sun. It was steering through space, like it had a destination. Scientists compared it to Oumuamua, the first interstellar object discovered in 2017. Long, tumbling, and mysterious. But 3I/A TLAS wasn't tumbling. It was steady. And that was terrifying. In the first 48 hours, NASA, the European Space Agency, and even military observatories turned their telescopes toward it. The images showed something odd, a body that wasn't entirely solid, as if fragments orbited a central core of metallic reflection. Not ice, not rock, something else. The official statement was calm, as always. 3I/A TLAS is a natural interstellar object showing comet-like behavior. But behind the scenes, scientists weren't calm. They were divided. Some said it was a fragment of a destroyed planet. Others whispered it was a probe, a vessel, a messenger. Then came the first anomaly. Over the course of just 2 days, its speed dropped by 2%. Space objects don't slow down without cause. No collisions, no gravitational drag, no explanation. It was as if it had applied brakes. Inside NASA's Jet Propulsion Laboratory, quiet arguments turned to shouting. Engineers reviewed the data again and again. They were sure the measurements were correct, but no one wanted to say the obvious, that something was controlling it. One line in an internal report leaked to the press later: dynamic signature inconsistent with inert matter. That single sentence spread across forums, news sites, and dark web circles. People began to speculate. Was 3I/A TLAS alive? Amateurs tuned their backyard telescopes, searching for the faint, flickering light now being watched by every major observatory on Earth. And then, something happened that no one expected. The Deep Space Network, the massive array of dishes used to track distant probes, picked up a repeating signal from the direction of 3I/A TLAS. Not a natural radio burst, not a pulsar. It was structured, repeating every 47 seconds. Astronomers stayed up through the night trying to decode it. Some said it resembled prime numbers. Others claimed it matched a binary sequence. But before analysis could finish, the data feed was cut. SETI's servers went offline for maintenance. The file was gone. 3 days later, NASA issued another statement. There is no verified transmission from 3I/A TLAS. The reports circulating online are inaccurate. But people inside SETI told a different story. One scientist, speaking anonymously, said, "The pattern wasn't random. It wasn't noise. It was language. We just didn't understand it." By now, conspiracy channels were exploding. Some claimed 3I/A TLAS was an alien probe scanning the solar system. Others believed it was a derelict spacecraft, drifting for eons, suddenly awakening near our sun. And a few insisted it was something more, a seed, a messenger of extinction. In late July, astronomers noticed another anomaly. 3I/A TLAS changed course again. A small but precise shift, as if correcting its trajectory. This wasn't radiation pressure. It wasn't gravity from Jupiter or Saturn. It was self-adjusted motion. NASA and the Pentagon convened a private session. Minutes from that meeting, partially leaked, contained just one chilling line. Possible artificial control. Risk assessment elevated to level 4. For the first time, the world's space agencies were treating an interstellar object as a potential threat. Weeks passed. Every observatory watched. But 3I/A TLAS grew dimmer, almost as if it was fading on purpose. Reflectivity dropped. Thermal readings vanished. It was becoming invisible. Then, on August 3rd, a Chilean observatory caught something. A sudden flash. For less than 1 second, 3I/A TLAS flared brighter than any comet, and then a small fragment appeared to hit it. 2 objects collided in deep space, and then vanished together. No debris, no explosion, just silence. The radio burst that followed was unlike anything ever recorded. It lasted only a few seconds, but the signal's strength was enough to be picked up by instruments across 3 continents. The waveform resembled a coded pulse, starting strong, then tapering off, like a voice fading into static. Official reports described it as solar interference. But every astronomer knew the sun wasn't responsible, because the sun was quiet that day. Across the world, data analysts, physicists, and conspiracy theorists began to argue. Some believed a second interstellar object had collided with 3I/A TLAS. Others thought the object had deliberately destroyed itself. A fail-safe, a termination command. One independent astronomer from Prague wrote in his report, "It behaved like something receiving instructions, and when those stopped, it shut down." But the real shock came days later. On August 10th, telescopes detected a faint reactivation. The object brightened slightly, not randomly, but rhythmically, every 47 seconds, the same period as the earlier signal. This time, there was no mistaking it. It wasn't an echo. It was communication. SETI went silent again. Every statement, every press release was suddenly under review. Even amateur recordings vanished from the Webb overnight. By the end of August, NASA's official 3I/A TLAS web page redirected to an error. The archives were gone. All mentions of the object erased. But the sky remembers. Astronomers still saw the faint glimmer moving between Jupiter and Mars, its motion precise, steady, alive. On September the 12th, the last confirmed visual detection was made. At 3:17 a.m. UTC, telescopes in Chile and Japan recorded a brief, deliberate pulse. A single beam of light, encoded. Binary, when decoded, it spelled one word. Hello. The message was undeniable. It wasn't random. It wasn't coincidence. Someone, or something, had replied. The world went silent. Governments refused comment. NASA denied involvement, but inside classified channels, encrypted messages were sent to allied agencies. What they said was never released, but leaks suggested one line repeated across every communication: prepare contingency for contact scenario. Religious leaders took to screens, declaring it a sign of creation. Scientists debated, arguing over alien communication ethics. But in the noise, something darker began spreading. A rumor that 3I/A TLAS wasn't alone, that it had arrived in response to something we sent. In 1977, NASA launched Voyager 1 and 2, carrying golden records, messages for any intelligent life to find. And now, decades later, something might have found us. Or maybe something had already been watching. That was when I got involved. My name doesn't matter, but I worked as a data analyst under a NASA subcontractor. We were told to filter infrared signatures from the Keck Observatory data. Nothing unusual, just calibration. But in one of those files, hidden deep inside the image data, I found something strange. Behind 3I/A, TLAS, a faint metallic reflection. Curved, symmetrical. Not a fragment, not debris. A structure. When I enhanced the data, a pattern emerged. Circular, layered, like a ring with segments, each one precisely spaced, as if engineered. I sent it to my supervisor. He never replied. The next day, my system access was revoked. Later that night, someone deleted the entire data folder from the server, every backup, every log. But I still had a copy. And what I saw was not from nature. The object wasn't a comet. It wasn't a rock. It was something built, and something about it was awakening. For days, the object remained quiet, but then the deep space network detected another short signal, different from before. 3 pulses, then silence. 3 pulses again, almost like coordinates, a beacon calling outward, not inward. The data went dark after that. Nobody would confirm it existed. But people in the control room that night, they described something else. The sound of static in the audio feed, repeating, faint, almost like breathing. It wasn't the machine. It wasn't interference. It was something alive. I can still hear it when I close my eyes. The rhythm, the silence between each breath. Whatever 3I/A TLAS is, it's listening. And now, it knows we've seen it. When I reported what I'd found, I expected silence. Instead, 2 days later, I was contacted. Not by NASA, but by someone claiming to represent an interagency coordination group. They didn't deny the object's existence. They only asked one question: has it responded to you directly? I didn't understand the question then. Now, I think I do. Because that night, while I was replaying the last recording, something changed. The background noise began to shift. The static shaped itself into rhythm, the same 47-second pulse. But this time, in between those intervals, a second pattern emerged. A modulation, a response, like it knew it was being listened to. I tried isolating the frequency. The signal repeated 4 words, distorted but clear once decoded. It said, "We were here first." That single phrase sent a chill through me. Was it a warning, a declaration, or a memory left behind by something long gone? The following morning, multiple observatories went offline simultaneously. Keck, Subaru, even parts of the Deep Space Network reported hardware recalibration. But insiders knew the channels were being locked down. Too many eyes had seen too much. Days turned into sleepless nights. Every independent astronomer trying to publish data was silenced, accounts suspended, posts deleted. But one observatory in Argentina continued streaming live coordinates until the feed abruptly cut to black. Before it ended, the object's trajectory had changed again. It was no longer moving toward the inner solar system. It was slowing down, drifting into a stable orbit near the asteroid belt, as if waiting. Then, the unthinkable happened. A second object appeared. Smaller, fainter. Following the same path 3I/A TLAS had taken months before. This one wasn't listed in any database. It wasn't seen by any radar sweep. But it was there, and 3I/A TLAS moved to meet it. Across global networks, bursts of encrypted data flared. A new signal chain, impossible to trace. 2 entities, talking in the language of light. Governments stayed silent, but inside secret labs, decoding teams were assembled. A friend of mine, an engineer from Pasadena, told me before he disappeared, "They're communicating. The first one isn't sending anymore. It's listening." What could an interstellar object be listening for? Perhaps a response from home. September turned into October. Both objects remained stationary relative to each other, locked in a silent duet. And then, faint emissions began radiating between them, low-frequency bursts forming geometric sequences. Triangles, spirals, a fractal signature repeating endlessly. Mathematicians realized the patterns mirrored a map, not of our solar system, but of something older, something outside. The realization came slowly, then all at once. The pattern matched the layout of nearby star systems as they would have appeared 2 million years ago. A star map from another era. But why would an object send us a map of the past? Some said it was a navigation log, others a distress beacon marking the route of an ancient voyage. The more daring suggested it was a memorial, a tombstone drifting through eternity. As debates raged, something else emerged. Data fragments in the transmissions contained structured code. Not random, not digital noise, but executable logic. It behaved like self-correcting software, alive, adaptive, and impossibly ancient. Teams that tried to emulate the code reported strange behavior in their systems. Memory loops, sudden power surges, machines responding to commands that no one had typed. One researcher described it as a living algorithm. Another called it digital infection. After the third lab fire in a month, the experiment stopped. Meanwhile, the world began to change. Reports of deep space radio interference increased. Communication satellites glitched at 47-second intervals. Even aircraft navigation systems momentarily failed in rhythm with the pulses from 3I/A TLAS. Something was synchronizing. It wasn't just in space anymore. By mid-October, every monitoring station detected a simultaneous surge, a wideband wave originating not from the objects, but from Earth itself. The same signature echoing upward, as if Earth had begun to answer. Global panic followed. Conspiracy theories, cult movements, street gatherings under the name the Atlas Calling. Some believed the objects had awakened something dormant in our planet, a resonance built into the core of our magnetic field. Others believed it was simply reflection, that 3I/A TLAS had turned Earth into a mirror, sending our own signals back to us. But the more the world speculated, the more the pulse grew unstable. The 47-second rhythm broke apart, intervals shortened. The signals merged into one continuous hum, low, vibrating, spreading through every layer of the ionosphere. And then it stopped. Silence. For 12 whole days. Nothing. Telescopes showed 3I/A TLAS dimming, fading until it was almost gone. Some celebrated, thinking the event was over. But deep beneath the surface of the Pacific Ocean, hydrophones recorded something else. The same pulse, now underwater, resonating from somewhere near the Tonga Trench. It had moved from the sky to the sea. I was no longer with the agency by then. I was in hiding, following leaks, collecting scraps of data. The official line was simple. No anomalous readings detected. But behind closed doors, governments prepared evacuation drills labeled Magellan Protocol. No one outside High Command knew what that meant. Then, at 2:17 a.m. GMT, every radio telescope on Earth received the same transmission, a burst lasting exactly 47 seconds. Encoded inside, an image file. When decoded, it showed a circular formation, 12 rings surrounding a central void, and at the center, a dark sphere, a perfect absence of light. At the bottom of the data header, a single tag, *ATLAS-0. The designation implied a prototype, meaning 3I/A TLAS was not the first. It was the third. We had already missed 2. The message was clear now. They weren't visitors. They were returning. For weeks, astronomers scanned the skies, searching for signs of the earlier ones, but found nothing. Maybe they had already come and gone. Maybe they were here, buried under oceans or ice. No one could say. And then came the final signal. Unlike the previous ones, it wasn't rhythmic. It was voice. Not in English. Not in any language on Earth. But when slowed down, filtered and reversed, a pattern of phonetics emerged. Human speech reconstructed through alien tone. The words were simple. You answered too soon. After that, every telescope pointed toward the asteroid belt went blind. Static sensors burned out, and for the first time since the beginning, the coordinates of 3I/ATLAS showed nothing. It was gone. Some claimed it disintegrated. Others believed it had cloaked itself, but one anonymous insider at the European Space Agency claimed otherwise. He said the object didn't vanish. It jumped. Telemetry suggested a displacement of several astronomical units within seconds, as if it had folded space around itself. They called it impossible. Yet the math held. It wasn't technology as we know it. It was an understanding of physics beyond comprehension, a manipulation of space-time itself. And then, weeks later, something even stranger occurred. In December, long after the disappearance, a small probe orbiting Mars began transmitting corrupted telemetry. Binary streams repeating a familiar code, the same pattern from 3I/ATLAS. But embedded within the noise was a new file, audio. When decoded, it played the sound of wind, distant, hollow, echoing as though inside a vast cavern, and beneath it, faintly, breathing, the same breathing I'd heard months before. It was here now, not in the sky, somewhere closer. The agencies kept quiet, the media moved on, but those who worked behind the scenes knew. Something had changed forever. Humanity had sent its voice into the stars, and the stars had spoken back. We'd opened a door that could never be closed. The remaining data fragments hinted at a timeline, a sequence of arrivals spanning millennia. First contact wasn't an event waiting to happen. It was already history repeating itself. Each visitor, 1I, 2I, and now 3I, a marker left along the same invisible path, a breadcrumb trail through interstellar darkness, leading not to discovery, but to remembrance. Maybe the message was never for us. Maybe we were just standing in the place where another civilization once fell. In the months that followed, radio silence persisted. The hum was gone. The sky was empty again. Until January 4th. At precisely 4:47 UTC, a faint pulse reappeared. Not from space, but from the far side of the moon. A single burst, repeating every 47 seconds. Lunar satellites picked it up first, then ground stations. The signal was weak, distorted, but unmistakably identical to the 3I/ATLAS signature. And buried deep inside that pulse, a simple binary sequence counting downward. 47, 46, 45. A countdown. No one knows what happens when it reaches zero. Maybe nothing, maybe everything. The official stance remains silence. No updates, no press conferences, no confirmation. Just the hum, faint, constant, growing louder with every passing day.